Hi guys, welcome back to Shelby in the Book Club. I am Shelby Monet, and in today's video, we will be talking all things River Sing Me Home by Eleanor Shearer. Now, I do want to say, someone recently left a little nasty comment. I'm not going to tell y'all on what video, but they were like, oh, I feel bad for whoever watches your videos because you spoiled the whole book and blah, blah, blah. And let me tell you something. I am probably going to put spoilers in my book review videos because I feel like I can't really talk about the book the way that I want to, the way that y'all enjoy for me to talk about the books, if there aren't some spoilers. But then also, I don't believe that you can spoil a book because everything comes down to perception, right? I'm telling you how I perceive this book, and you may read it and not perceive it the same way that I did, which is why it's so much fun to talk about books and so on and so forth. But if you don't like spoilers, I totally understand. Do not watch my book review videos. Point blank and the black ass period, just don't watch them, because I know that I'm going to spoil some parts. I try not to the best that I can, but I can't guarantee anything, okay? So if you would like to hear how I felt about this book, spoilers or no spoilers, then here we go. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share. I've been having such a grand time focusing on my YouTube channel and creating these videos for you guys and talking to you guys and hearing your feedback and so on and so forth. So let's keep that up. And without further ado, here we go. Okay, River Sing Me Home. So when I first heard about this book, I knew that I wanted it. I knew that I was gonna get it. And then when I got it and I looked at the author, she describes herself as mixed race, which is fine. I'm never going to try to police anybody's blackness. But there was a little passage that she puts in the front that I'm going to read to you guys that kind of made me a little weary, and I'll explain why in a second. So it says, my aim in writing this novel was to bring life to a story about the Caribbean in the aftermath of slavery, a place in a time that is not always well known or well understood. Doing this history justice was incredibly important to me, especially given my family ties to the Caribbean. To make this story as accurate as possible, I have chosen to use some terms such as mulatto and Negro that are offensive to many people today, myself included. There are also characters who express deeply racist views, which were widespread at the time. I do not use these terms or write these characters to condone them, but I want readers to be clear-eyed about the extent of the brutality and the oppression that enslaved people face. As we excavate history through fiction, we can confront the injustices of our past as a way to shed light on our present and work toward a more equitable future. Now, the things that she said were very nice, but it made me feel like this was someone that identifies mostly as white. And that's a little nerve-wracking for me, because I often feel like people that do identify as white, whether they are mixed or not, often tell a glorified version of what they think enslavement was like, and it's not right. I'm here to say Eleanor did not do that. She did not do that at all. She talks about a woman named Rachel who is from the Barbados, who escapes her plantation after the day after the Emancipation Act of 1834 was implemented, and she goes on a journey to find her children, and she encounters a bunch of different people. She has help along the way, so on and so forth. I think on the surface it's a story about a woman looking for her children. I think the heart of the story which is why I think people should read this, is the question of what is freedom, right? And how do we bridge the gap between the fantasy that we have of what freedom is, not only for enslaved people, but just for women in general, or people in general versus what freedom actually is, right? I think Rachel had it in her mind that, oh, I'm gonna go out here, I'm gonna find my kids, I'm gonna do whatever it takes, and the thing that's gonna make me happy, the thing that is going to amplify this freedom, is having my family back together. Not considering that she hasn't seen these children in years, she doesn't know who they are anymore, or the things that they've gone through, or what they've had to face in order to get where they are now. I think and it's not to take away from them, like Rachel wanting her freedom, right? She was enslaved all her life. She did not know her parents. All she knew was cut and cane, right? All she knew was this very, very, very terrible life. So of course she wanted to know what was on the other side, but she also had to like go through all the stages of grief and to like face all of these things to realize that like your sense of freedom is in yourself, right? It is your mindset. It is how you decide to do things and so on and so forth. It's embedded in you, and the fight that you have. Now, it was a little touch and go reading this because, like I said, I feel like her being mixed race, it's like, what you mean you gonna tell a slave that it's just in their mind? Girl, are you dumb? But in this particular case, because Rachel was able to get her freedom, she has this really like full circle moment of trying to bridge the gap, like I said, between what she thought freedom was going to be like versus what it was actually like. It kind of reminded me of the you know how people be like, y'all all told me to go to therapy and I went and it sucked because now I'm hurting even more than I was before. It's kind of like that thought process. Like you go to the therapy, you talk to the people, and it uncovers all of this stuff that you now have to face to get to the happy. You have whatever you think your freedom is. Let's not use freedom anymore. You have the money now, and you looking around trying to figure out why everything looked the same. Baby, you got to work with it now. You have to change. You have to adjust to your environment. So I think that's a very powerful thing, because a lot of what Rachel was going through, she kept saying, what now? Like each step of the way, she had to adjust and figure out, like she meets this one character that helps her find one of her children. And she couldn't for the life of her figure out why this woman was being nice to her. But then she experiences something else along her way, and she's like, oh, I don't have to be afraid of everybody. I don't have to be weary of everybody because of my past. Like, does that make sense? So I really enjoyed how the character grew. I also really enjoyed the encounters with her kids, because they all taught some sort of lesson to her and reminded her to feel again. Like, she had to figure out how to feel again. She had to figure out that, like, oh, what kept me alive in this section of my life is no longer going to keep me alive in the point of my life that I'm in now. I think this book is really, really spiritual. I think it is. I think once you get beyond the hard parts, and once you get beyond like why she had to search for her children and the trauma that she went through trying to be a mother, when she didn't really know how to be a mother because she didn't have her own mom, right? And you know, losing her children, having to find them again, like just realizing that there's more to life than what she thought. It is very it's suspenseful. There's some parts that were a little rough. But I did do a lot of highlighting. A lot, and I took a lot of notes in this book too. There was a section that talks about losing a parent and how children just know, right, when their parents go or when it's time, and that hit me in my chest a little bit. But this one particular quote, or this one particular section, it says, by rights, it should have been the other way around, Rachel thought, because losing a parent was natural, expected. And although on the plantations where everyone was half starved and sickness ran rife, losing a child was almost as common as losing a parent. It still felt wrong, like a tear in the expected tapestry of a life. Shouldn't that disruption tug harder than the inevitability of a mother or a father's death? That was just so powerful to me. And it made me think, like, maybe mothers don't know. Maybe some mothers don't have that feeling because parents never imagine having to see their parent, their child, go. So that was really that was powerful to me. Another thing was not knowing had given her peace. It was the peace that she had clung on to on Providence that kept her frozen to the plantation. She would rather imagine her children living than know them to be dead. Just like I said, parents don't ever imagine that, because it's known that, you know, we know that I'm probably going to see my parents go. You know, it's something we expect. Here's another quote. Freedom was just another name for the life they had always lived. Ain't that powerful? Ain't that powerful? But I really think it was a good book. It does talk a lot about loss. It does talk a lot about grief. But those things are important. Oh, here's another good one. She gave herself permission to live, and as she had given herself permission to live before. No, she gave herself permission to live as she had given herself permission to live before. There was a kernel of something indestructible inside her that neither slavery or grief could shatter. It truly is a good book. And then, like, some of the people that she met along the way, like one character, his name was Nobody. That kind of messed me up throughout the book. Because I would, like, forget that was his name, and, like, that being his name changed the way that you read a sentence, right? Because if I say nobody has left their keys, right, versus nobody has ever left their keys, like, it just changes the meaning of sentences, and it was a little off. But her, like, their meeting, how they meet, and her connecting to him, and, like, realizing that although she's lost her some of her biological children, excuse me, through miscarriages, stillbirth, so on and so forth, excuse me, she is still a mother to others. It doesn't mean that she's no longer a mother. she's always going to have those instincts and so on and so forth. So I think it was a really good book. But like I said, it is very spiritual. I think it is really about a woman trying to find her way again and trying to figure out, what is freedom? What is freedom? What is it? And no one else can define that for you. You have to define it for yourself. Do I think that that same sentiment could be told outside of historical fiction? Yes. Which is why that first little paragraph made me uncomfortable, because she could have told that story. It could have been a story about a modern woman losing her children and trying to find them in those stages of grief. But I can't tell anybody how to honor their blackness. I can't tell anybody how to be black and what that means and so on and so forth. But nevertheless, I think it was a really good book. I think it's a really good book. I think it's one of those books that, like, you got to read the whole thing and then sit with it so that you can understand what the full meaning of it was. And that's all I've got. I think I gave it like a 4 stars on Storygraph. Maybe. I think. I think you should read it. I think you'll enjoy it. And I try not to spoil too much. But yeah, if you've read it or if you plan to read it now after watching this review, let me know in the comments. If you think you've read something similar to this, let me know. I love historical fiction. Love it so much. So any historical fiction recs, let me know in the comments. And if no one has told you today, I love you. You are kind, you are smart, you are important, if to no one else, to me. And you should be to yourself too. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.